Mom, can we have the scantily clad doggo? No, we have a scantily clad doggo at home. The scantily clad doggo at home. Good day, everyone. Today, thanks to Gorou's hangout, we are going to be taking a look at Gorou and seeing what we think of him, what types of teams he will work with, which is probably obvious, and why I am very not pleased with this. But before we get into the ranting, let's go ahead and take a look at his abilities. His elemental skill gives a flat defense increase and a flat geo damage bonus, while his ultimate gives essentially that exact same bonus, but puts it on yourself so it will follow you around, while also dealing geo damage based on your defense. So even though the defense that he gives other characters has nothing to do with his own defense, because his damage is probably mostly going to be coming from his ultimate, you probably just want to build him into defense. And considering also his second passive gives additional defense to his elemental skill and to his ultimate, further solidifies this. His first passive just increases the defense of everyone in the party by 25% when he uses his ultimate. Now getting into his constellations, where we will end up getting into the ranty portions of the video once we actually start properly talking about them. The first constellation I don't think honestly really does much. It pretty much just decreases the cooldown of his elemental skill by 2 seconds, pretty much once every skill cooldown, which again, I don't think really accomplishes anything. It doesn't really allow you to use the skill anymore. And as the ultimate gives the same buff anyway, again, I don't think this one really matters. The second constellation is definitely a little bit better. It basically increases the ultimate's duration by about 3 seconds, so it turns it from, I think, 9 seconds to 12, so that's a nice little increase, but not necessary. C4 is where we start to get into the irritations. So one thing in which I felt at the beginning of the game why I was kind of okay with constellations was even if they made the characters significantly better, it didn't completely change the character, right? It didn't just all of a sudden make this character be able to perform a completely new role. Noelle, for example, her C6 is amazing. It gives her an incredible attack bonus by adding additional defense into attack scaling with her ultimate. However, her ultimate still has the transferring of defense into attack. It's not like it's not there at all. So things like Gorou's C4 and Kazuha's C6 feel to me where it's like you basically took the character, designed the character, and then just completely took one of their entire roles and then just threw it behind constellations. And that really irritates me. So now, specifically, the reason why this gives him a new role, essentially, while his ultimate is up, it will heal the active character by 50% of Gorou's own defense once every 1.5 seconds. Turning Gorou into a healer, which for Gorou could definitely make your team building easier, because if you're, say, using Arataki Ito, who doesn't look like he has any form of the way of healing or shielding, and Albedo, who also doesn't have any healing or shielding, and then Gorou, your fourth member is going to sort of be split between if you get a character that can heal or shield. Because you need a character who can shield, otherwise you don't have the Geo Resonance, which is very important. But then you don't really have a healer unless you use Diona, whose shield isn't up all the time. So this pretty much allows you to just run a more pure shielder. You could say run Toma, who I think would be probably fantastic here, to make sure that you always have that shield up, but then you are also able to heal any damage that you do end up taking, say, from corrosion or the likes of that. Then, of course, we come to his C6, which is just Kujo Sara, but Geo, pretty much. Basically, if you have one Geo character in the party, which you obviously would if you have Gorou, all Geo damage gains a 10% crit damage bonus. If you have 2, then they gain a 20% crit damage bonus, and then if you have 3, it's a 40% crit damage bonus. So very powerful and very, very niche, as it's really, for the most part, probably for like 3 characters, as once again, outside of this, the biggest thing he does is increase other characters' defense. So, having looked at his skills and his constellations, we can see that he's basically Kujo Sara 2.0, but for Geo. Now, with that being said, that is more niche, but much better in that niche. The reason I'd say that is because in Kujo Sara's case, you can probably find other characters who can give a similar buff, be it the attack buff, even just throwing thrilling tails onto someone. And then outside of her C6, she doesn't really provide much of anything else. And then if you do get her C6, there's still only a few Electro characters that she actually works really well on. Say, Beidou is fantastic because her ultimate snapshots. But even a character like, say, Raiden isn't that fantastic, as Kujo Sora's buff only lasts for 6 seconds. It takes probably about 1.5 to 2 seconds for the animation of Raiden's ultimate to transpire, and then you have the 7-second duration. And so she's only going to have Kujo Sora's buff for probably about like 4 seconds of her full rotation. Gorou doesn't really seem to have this issue. He seems like he can pretty much have these defense increase and the geo damage bonus increases pretty much most of the time. He really shouldn't have much of any downtime, and because it's a ground effect like, say, Bennett's Q, it's very easy to give it to each party member, unlike Kujo Sara, who has a hard time giving it to multiple. And so, while he pretty much only works for 3 characters in the entire game, he probably does work for them better than Kujo Sara works for pretty much anyone other than Beidou. Now, personally speaking, I can't really say that I like this approach to buffing Electro and Geo. And it's not simply that, oh hey, here's this one character that you can use, and then your Geo characters and Electro characters are way better. If that's your way of buffing Geo or Electro, or just weaker elements in general, honestly, I feel like I'm kind of okay with that, because if you really want them to be good, then you can try to get that character. The issue is that they're not. They're more niche than that. Kujo Sara's buff, being able to pretty much only give to one person and lasting for a mere 6 seconds, just isn't enough to make her worth the spot on the team over other 4-star characters, even for Electro characters the majority of the time. Gorou, for any Geo character that doesn't scale off defense, you can probably find another character to put in his spot that, even 4 stars, that will fit the slot better. And so it doesn't really make, oh, Electro better or Geo better, but 1, 2, 3 characters better. So if they wanted to use a character to buff the entire element, I would be fine with that, but it would have to actually buff the entire element, not just a portion of it. And even if they do this, and this is their way of buffing these elements, I still feel like it's a shame, because it still means that Electro elemental reactions just really aren't up to snuff of, say, Vaporize and Freeze and Melt. And Crystallize still does nothing other than generate some small elemental shields. And so it would be nice for, say, Crystallize to be a bit more than playing a Knuckles level in Sonic Adventure 2. And speaking of that, that is another thing which I did not mention about Gorou's ultimate, is that it will cause elemental shards to pull in towards your character, which definitely is actually kind of a little nice addition, as it means you do not have to go run after them. Now, we also talked about how, what characters he'd be good with, and once again, it's pretty obvious that it's pretty much just Arataki Itto, Noelle, and Albedo. And then the question is of whether you should use him or not, other than because you want to rub that tummy and hear the doggo go grrr. Honestly, really just depends on whether or not you have Albedo. Because if you have Albedo, then you can throw Gorou into the team along with either Arataki Itto and Noelle, and by buffing both either Noelle and Arataki Itto and Albedo, he will definitely be worth the slot, even at C0. However, if you, say, only have Noelle and Arataki Itto and don't have Albedo, or you just have Albedo and you just don't want to use Noelle, he probably isn't worth it. You're probably better off using some other character, like, again, Bennett, for example. As at C0, he will buff Noelle alone by less than Bennett will buff her. Now, as you go up in Constellations, of course, this will change, specifically his last one, as even if you only have 2 characters there, 20% crit damage bonus is pretty good, and then this will just further his spot on the team of having 2 other Geo characters with the 40% crit damage bonus. But leaving my rather immense irritations with Gorou aside, once again, if you do have Albedo, then using him along with Gorou and then Noelle or Arataki Itto should be a very good team. And so, unlike a few other characters where I almost feel they don't really have much of a place in the game, Gorou does. It's just basically 2 teams. And so, if you have Albedo, or you're planning to pull for Albedo during this update, and you'd like to do a mono Geo team with then Noelle or Arataki Ito, Gorou definitely, even at C0, is probably a good option to slot in that team. And if you can get him to C4 so that he can take the spot of also being the healer, or C6 to be a massive damage bonus, in addition to what he's already providing, he will be a fantastic character in those 2 teams. But for me, as I don't plan on getting Albedo, and even if I did get Albedo, I would probably throw him in a group with like Hu Tao or so on and so forth to make use of that elemental mastery he gives out, and so still wouldn't end up using a Geo team anyway, I don't think. I will probably not even bother pulling into Gorou and Arataki Ito's banner. And this is, once again, even ignoring my irritation with Mihoyo's move to 1, making very niche characters, but 2, locking characters' entire kits behind their constellations, and giving them entire new roles. Yay. But with that, we reach the end of the video. What do you think about Gorou? Do you plan on rolling for him? And if so, are you planning to use him with Albedo and Noelle / Arataki Ito, or do you have something else planned? Do you think I was perhaps too harsh on Gorou and Mihoyo? And it doesn't really matter that his constellations allow him to heal and then give him a 40% crit damage bonus. Maybe because he's a 4-star and you expect to eventually get all of his constellations, it's fine? Or are you rather disappointed that your doggo boy that you were looking forward to using is really only good for about 3 characters, and you don't plan on using those 3 characters, and find it a shame as you would have liked to use him? Do let me know with anything else you'd like to tell me down below in the comments. Thank you for watching, look forward to seeing you again next time, and hope you all have a great day.